Welcome to Buckeyes Tomorrow Morning for Sunday, December 24th. I'm your host, Tom Orr. The Cotton Bowl game against Missouri is in 5 days. The game against Michigan in 342 days. I'm joined today by Ross Fulton, the X's and O's guru at BuckeyeHuddle.com. And when I'm joined by Ross, we are sponsored by Jeff Ruby Steakhouse, the award-winning upscale steakhouse in downtown Columbus, ranked one of the top 50 steakhouses in America by Food Network. Just go to jeffruby.com/Columbus to see the menu and make a reservation today. All right, Ross, we're taking a little bit of a preview of the Cotton Bowl game today. We're going to take a little bit of a look at the offensive side of the ball, a little bit of a look on the defensive side of the ball. And my first note on the offensive side of the ball, it just says, new QB, who dis? So, Ross, no more Kyle McCord. It is the Devin Brown show for the Cotton Bowl. How are you expecting this to impact what the Buckeye offense looks like and maybe can do against the Missouri Tigers?
Yeah, I think it'll have a pretty sizable impact. I mean, I think that probably most people can imagine it'll be an extrapolation or building off of what we saw with Devin Brown this season when he played. So I think the first thing that jumps out is probably quite a bit more, run read and design QB run game. For instance, they showed a lot of desire to run like counter, QB counter tray with bash. So you're running, you're blocking counter tray with the guard and the tackle pulling to lead the quarterback. And then the running back's basically running a backside sweep. The quarterback reads the backside end to determine, does he keep on the run play or does he give to the running back? And so, I think a lot of particularly with Devin Brown, as we saw in those goal line packages, he's really much more of a big inside runner than he is someone who you're trying to get on the edge. And so I'd expect plays like that. A lot of bash sweeps, get Travion Henderson outside combined with Devin Brown handling the inside part of the run game. And so that's obviously the biggest thing, and particularly in goal line short yardage. Passing game wise, I think, we saw probably enough to know that what they're trying to do to his strengths, which I think is probably a combination of play action, short passing game, mesh, shallow crossing concepts, play action routes to the tight end. And then, probably a bigger emphasis on taking some shots downfield. He seems comfortable with those routes. He had a couple big slot fades when he got time later in the year. And so I think you'll see a little bit more combination of, emphasis on a mix of short passing game and throwing the football downfield.
All right, you got some Devin Brown fans there with you. It is, this is going to be the first real full-time opportunity that we get to see Devin Brown in a full start and basically having this be his offense. What are you looking for? This is also going to be the last time we really get to see him, on the field, or any Ohio State quarterback on the field before the spring game, and then really in a meaningful game until the start of the next season. So what are you looking for in terms of evaluating Devin Brown as a quarterback in this first full game? Because I think people are going to be probably drawing too many conclusions from this game one way or the other. But what should people be looking for in terms of, okay, maybe this guy is the next guy at Ohio State, or, maybe there's more questions, or this is really going to be a wide open quarterback competition in 2024?
Yeah, I think I'd like to see a combination of more consistency as a passer, particularly on, short intermediate routes, more accuracy. I don't think you want to continue. He had a couple bad reps earlier in this year where had open receivers on short routes and threw it behind them, threw it at their feet. So I think you'd like to see his completion percentage higher than what he showed at somewhat this year. And then I think you'd also like to see his legs bring an extra dimension to the offense, whether that's making plays outside of structure in the passing game or, in the run game, as we discussed. I think that has been something that we've talked about the last couple of years that has hindered the Ohio State run game somewhat, is not having that sort of mobile threat from the quarterback position, compared to what they had when they had Justin Fields. And so I think if you can see sort of that open up things in the run game, I think as a structural concept, even beyond the person at quarterback, I think that would sort of be a indication of where things would head, because Devin Brown obviously is different than Lincoln Keenholz, but I think they both bring some athleticism to the position. And so I do think that'll be a part of Ohio State's repertoire next year, either way.
And the personnel for this game still a little bit up in the air. We know there's going to be no Julian Fleming. We know there's going to be no Chip Trayanum. We know there's going to be no Mayan Williams in terms of just sort of the skill talent at Ohio State. I think I'm still assuming you're not going to have Marvin Harrison, but as of the time we're recording this, that is not official yet. But with some of the guys that they've been sort of leaning on to a certain degree throughout the course of the year, who they may or may not have, or probably won't have for the Cotton Bowl, who are you looking to see, step up? How does that maybe change what they are or aren't able to do during the game? How does that, those personnel changes, how does that impact what they might be looking to do against Missouri?
Yeah, I'm likewise for this, assuming that Harrison does not play. And as a result, I think I'm pretty interested in how they use Emeka Egbuka, with the thought that maybe he is in fact coming back next year. Obviously, we don't know. But, I think what I'll be looking for as a result is, do they play him outside more and less in the slot? Obviously, they'll have Xavier Johnson for the Cotton Bowl. They won't next year. But they do have Brandon Inniss, who is, who they also have in the slot. And so, my thought would be that one way to feature Egbuka more would be not to limit him so much to the slot. But it will be interesting to see, as you said, with no Fleming too. I'm assuming Carnell Tate will be at Z in Fleming's place. But it will be interesting to see sort of how they mix and match the receivers they have available at different spots. It'll be interesting to see without Chip Trayanum there. Obviously, that gives some opportunities for Dallin Hayden. How much of a role he has again next year depends on what TreVeyon Henderson decides to do. And, to the extent that TreVeyon Henderson's featured in the Cotton Bowl, like Egbuka, I would take that as a positive indication regarding their planning for next year, at least what they're thinking at the time. But regardless, it'll be interesting to see, how much they use Hayden, and obviously he's different than the way they use Chip Trayanum just in terms of his skill set. And so it'll be, sort of interesting how they mix them in and feature them.
All right. And then on the other side of the ball, we've talked a bunch about what they've been doing on defense all year, and then how that sort of changed a little bit during the Michigan game, not necessarily for the better. This is another one where we have not officially heard that Lathan Ransom is not playing, but I think it's sort of, you're assuming that Lathan Ransom is probably not playing in this game. So what do you think what do you expect from the Ohio State defense against Missouri? Because this is a pretty good Missouri offense. They got some real skill talent in terms of running back and wide receiver, and Brady Cook's a pretty good quarterback. And this is going to be a decent test for this defense. What are you expecting Ohio State to try and do?
Yeah, similar again, as you said, without Ransom, you have to kind of, I guess, assume that they'll continue with some of what they did against Michigan and even earlier in the weeks before that, once Sonny Styles had to play full time at that boundary safety spot in place of Ransom, some more of those soft cover 4 looks, maybe less man coverage. That said, I am intrigued. Again, we all probably overread tea leaves from, one bowl game in terms of its what it means for next year. But I am still sort of do wonder, was some of what they were doing Michigan specific, or was it Ransom injury specific, or some combination thereof? Because it just was such a change over the last week or two of the season from what they had done earlier in the season. And so, again, I'll just be looking at is do they continue down that path, or do they go back to playing, more cover 1 man, mixing in some cover 2, different looks? Because I do think that may give some indications for next year. And obviously, with whether, again, like Egbuka, like Henderson, Ransom, his potential return would make a big difference probably in the direction of the defense going next year.
All right. And Tony Gerderman and I got a very interesting question on a Buckeye Weekly listener question show that we are going to be dropping either today or tomorrow. I don't remember which day this is all going out. But the question was essentially, there have been rumors, reports, you sort of have heard that TreVeyon Henderson, Emeka Egbuka, JT Tuimoloau, all seriously considering returning for the 2024 season. And the question was, which of those guys, rank those three guys in order of the most important to return for the 2024 Buckeyes to the least important. And, I think that's not quite the same question as who would have the biggest season or who would have the best season, but who is the most important to, 1, 2, 3 of those three guys, Travion Henderson, Emeka Ibuka, JT Tuimoloau, to return for the 2024 Buckeyes?
It's a tough question, obviously, because I want to say why not all three? They would all make a huge difference. But I think I'd have to go with Henderson just because the room itself is pretty depleted at this point, with Hayden and then 2 freshmen. If that would be the only running backs left if Henderson leaves, and obviously I think we all saw in the second half of the season the potential impact that Henderson can have in terms of being an explosive playmaker. So I think a healthy Ibuka can bring that in his own ways, and obviously a JT Tuimoloau would make a gigantic difference too. So, there are a lot of those guys, I think, in those kind of position right now where it's like, day 2, maybe day 3 picks potentially, or come back. And so, but I think you do have to say Henderson just because of the overall depth situation.
All right. Well, that's good news because that's the answer I gave, because that is the correct answer. What answer did Tony Girdham give? Well, you will have to listen to the Buckeye Weekly podcast to find that out. That is one of the many fine podcasts offered by BuckeyeHuddle.com. You can find all of them just by searching Buckeye Huddle or just looking for us on YouTube at youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. Thanks to Ross for joining me today. Thanks to Jeff Ruby Steakhouse, proudly offering nationally acclaimed USDA prime steaks, seafood and sushi, impeccable service, live entertainment, and an attention to detail that is simply unmatched. Learn more, check out the menu, and make a reservation today at jeffruby.com/Columbus. All right, before we let you go, just a little housekeeping. No show tomorrow. It is Christmas. We all get to take one day off a year. That is our day off. We're taking Christmas off. And we're not even really taking Christmas off because Tony and Kevin and I will be on an airplane on Christmas afternoon, heading down to Dallas to go start covering the Cotton Bowl. We'll be down there on Christmas night. The morning show for the 26th, unless Southwest does to me what they did last year on Christmas night. The morning show for the 26th will be coming to you from Dallas, Texas, as we're talking about the Buckeyes, the Missouri Tigers. We will start covering practices and press conferences on the morning of the 26th. Should be a big full day of coverage on the 26th and the 27th, and then another day of press conferences on the 28th, and then, of course, the game on the 29th. So a very busy few days, rather short bowl week for the Buckeyes and for Buckeye Huddle this year, but will be a busy few days down from I guess, Arlington, Texas, and not just Dallas, Texas. We'll be down there covering it all. We'll be in the right city, I promise. So make sure you check out BuckeyeHuddle.com and youtube.com/BuckeyeHuddle. Hope you guys all have a wonderful Christmas. We'll talk to you on the 26th.